The US Secretary of State is embarking on another tour of the Middle East in an effort to boost support for a ceasefire in Gaza. It is Antony Blinken's 8th trip to the region since the war between Israel and Hamas began last October. During the 3-day visit, which begins in Egypt, he'll urge Arab leaders to pressure Hamas into accepting the draft peace deal unveiled at the end of last month by President Biden. Meanwhile, Benny Gantz, one of the most senior members of the Israeli war cabinet, which was set up after the Hamas attack last October, has resigned from the group. He had threatened to stand down unless he felt there was a post-war plan for Gaza, with a deadline set for yesterday. He told reporters he wasn't satisfied, and this is the moment he confirmed he was standing down.
Unfortunately, Netanyahu is preventing us from approaching true victory, which is the justification for the painful ongoing price. And this is why we quit the National Unity Government today. With a heavy heart, yet we feel that it is the right decision. We are now in the midst of a campaign that will impact the fate of Israel generations ahead. In order to guarantee true victory this coming fall, when it will be the one-year anniversary of this disaster, we should go for elections and reach a new government. I call on to Netanyahu, set a date for elections.
Well, let's go live to Jerusalem now and join our correspondent there, John Donnison. Good morning, John. So what's the reaction been to this so far?
Well, look, I think this is a significant moment, but it's not going to bring the government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu down because his coalition still maintains its majority in the parliament. But you have to remember that Mr Gantz joined the government and the war cabinet in the wake of the October the 7th attacks as an act of unity. And what this shows now is that there is no unity on how the war is being conducted in Gaza, and in particular, as you said in your introduction, in terms of a post-war plan. It also removes a relatively moderate figure, and Mr Gantz is a man with vast military experience from the cabinet, and someone I think who was particularly well respected by the Americans. And I think what people think could happen here is it will see the government shift to the right. Those more extremist elements within the Israeli government could have more say. In particular, Itamar Ben-Gvir, the security minister, he has already said that he should replace Mr Gantz in the war cabinet, and he is someone who completely rejects the idea of any sort of ceasefire deal with Hamas.
So what does this mean for President Biden's plan that was presented at the end of last month? Antony Blinken is in the region again, and his hope is to try and persuade Hamas to come on board. But now Israel, what Israel thinks about that plan is changing, presumably.
Yes, I mean, Mr Blinken is going to be trying to put pressure, I think, on both sides. He's due in Cairo and then in Israel a little later. But he's got a tough job, and those ceasefire talks don't really seem to be getting anywhere at the moment. And the danger is that for Mr Netanyahu, that if he agrees to go ahead with this ceasefire deal, which he has suggested he would do, of course the Americans are calling it an Israeli plan, then the likes of Mr Ben-Gvir, who I mentioned earlier, have said they will pull out of the government, and that would bring the government down, and it would mean fresh elections, and that is something that Mr Netanyahu is desperately trying to avoid. So it's going to be fascinating to see what unfolds in the next few days, but I don't think people are holding their breath for any sort of ceasefire deal soon.
OK, John, for now, thank you very much indeed. John Donnison there in Jerusalem for us.